Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to X Planet Live. My name is Lionel Miranda, and today we are talking about one of my favorite armies in the game, in the form of Maggotkin of Nurgle. I've been playing Maggotkin for quite a long while. Really love the aesthetic of the army, love the god, love the narrative. Model range is absolutely awesome. Everything to do with it, been digging for quite a long time. Played them since, when I picked the army off of a customer who was getting out. He had a few models painted, and I was like, you know what, I will buy that, because I could copy that color scheme. I guess we played all of third and a little bit of second, I think. Any case, it's been a while. It has been a while. Now, I've been testing out lists, playing a few games, weighing in on some of the units in this book. And today you're about to hear my opinions on them. Let me first start by saying what this video is not. It is not me going through every single war scroll, although we'll be going through quite a few of them in the book, and then reading out to you all the stats, and then reading out to you all the rules. That is not what this is about. What I'm going to do is I am going to post an image of the thing I'm talking about, and then I'm going to talk about it in broad and specific terms, and the impact I believe it has on the army and what you can squeeze out of it. So with that in mind, I guess let's talk about Maggotkin and Nurgle. So when they announced this book and the rumors hit, I'm going to tell you right now, I was dreading the release of the book. The track record for the design team so far in this edition of the game has not exactly been the best. And I was not looking forward to seeing what they did to one of my favorite armies, is basically what, I'll be honest with you, not looking forward to it at all. So rumors hit, and the rumors, by the way, were all accurate. For the large part, yeah, accurate, I would say so. So I got a very abbreviated description of everything, and at that moment, I was not feeling all that positive about Maggotkin. What I saw was a lot of things taken away, and what it didn't seem, other than Rodriguez specifically, nothing really stood out as anything interesting. Then the points came out, and that's when things really took off. The points were the context that the book needed, or at least all the rules that I saw needed. Like I said, it went from I'm not even interested in this book at all after seeing it to wow, I'm in. I'm absolutely in. The points really changed the conversation. So did the points make the book good? I'm going to say yes and no, maybe. We'll expand on it as we go through it. But there are just a few things that I wasn't really digging about some of the design direction in the book. The overall impression I get from the design team is they are looking to curve back power, I guess. A lot of kids would call that nerfing, and maybe offering up a different play style. In some extreme cases, Nighthaunt being one of them, a completely different play style. That of course is going to be received in many different ways. Not the case in this case. Maggotkin play pretty much how they did before. They're relatively tough. But I'm going to say that it feels like the disease mechanic is really what pushes the army, or where the heavy lifting comes from damage-wise in the army. Okay, so broadly, do I like this book as it stands right now? Yes, I do like the book. I think the book is very, very solid. But I'm wondering whether I'm digging it mostly because of the way the points are at. I'm sure you've seen other reviews of this book, saying that stuff is far too cheap. And I've kind of settled on the fact that I think the book is just is competitive, but not crazy competitive. It's not anywhere near as nuts as Cities at its peak. It's nowhere near as nuts as Lumineth at its peak. And if you're talking previous editions, it's not anything crazy like Seraphon in third, second in the history of Seraphon. This is the most balanced version of Seraphon this edition. Good job. In any case, I think it's good. I think it's real good. All right, so that's the broad view. Let's look at the very first slide. Gaio, if you could get the Taliban of Nurgle up on the screen for these lovely folk. All right, so there are formations in this book, but really maybe what I should say is a formation, because it really is all about the Taliban. I mean, I'm not sure exactly what it takes. I'm not a game designer. I don't profess to be. I'm a guy who loves this game, loves many games, likes to play it competitively. I don't know what the bandwidth and power and energy it takes to design formations. Sorry, Gaio, it's the formations. We're looking at the Taliban of Nurgle. I don't know if that's clear. Hopefully it's up on the screen. So, but I don't understand. You got 4 choices and there's only really one real one. Like they couldn't spend a bit more time on the other choices to make it a bit of a coin toss. Like Taliban's a very obvious choice. Now, again, I'm not going to read that wall of text that's in front of you, hopefully in front of you right now. Basically what it is after deployment, you pick a unit on the other side of the board and you roll 2d3. If you roll equal to or greater than their health characteristic, they become diseased. Regardless of whether you do that, they become the plague progenitor, also known as patient 0, for lack of a better term. So as patient 0, plague progenitor, if at any time they become diseased, when you choose to spread disease, the things that the disease spreads to or targets takes an additional D3 mortal wounds. Now, I'm going to send out a big apology. I went to a tournament. I did not see or notice the fact that it did say others. And Jeff, my friend, your unit of Blade Masters took about 2 D3 more mortal wounds than it really should have. And I sincerely apologize. I only realized that after the fact. I'm a big giant cheater. But outside of that plague progenitor bubble where they get hit, those guys do take 2 D3. And that is massive. Absolutely massive. There's tons of tactics on approach on Taliban. And I've been exposed to some of it here in the shop on what people naturally choose. There's many ways, many levers you can pull for this. For instance, you could try to plague progenitor a hero. Obviously, the odds of you doing that will be, odds of giving them disease will be less, because typically heroes are 5 wounds or more. Now, under Taliban, you do have the option, if you roll a 5 or a 6, so 3 and 3, on those 2 dice that you roll, regardless of how many wounds they have, they become diseased. But again, I can't stress that enough. They do become plague progenitor. So again, you could go after a hero, and if you feel that hero is going to be a hero that commits an enormous amount, like for instance, let's just say it's Altherian. Altherian, you know he's only got one button, and that's to push forward. You could plague progenitor him so that if he becomes diseased, and anyone is near him, he will act as a vector for disease and do more damage. You can also take a heavy unit off of the opponent. For instance, if you're playing Slaves to Darkness, you look at Chosen. Odds of you rolling 3 or higher on 2d3 is actually not ridiculous. It's pretty good. It's like rolling a 3+ on a single die. Giving that unit disease is going to be absolutely amazing, because now in that first round, sorry, here's the other part of Plague Progenitor. First round, they are not allowed to heal. And often those chaos chosen of chaos are close to sorcerers and what other really important components that you could then pass disease to. Now, I myself love making sure that my opponent understands what the Taliban is all about. And what that usually means is my opponent starts spreading their army across the table. Nothing is within 3 inches. And that usually interferes with their army, just plain and simple. Heroes maybe are not as useful because they're not within combat range of any of the units. So either way, you get disruption. This is an absolutely phenomenal battle formation on many, many levels, useful in all sorts of games, and complements the disease mechanic of the army. It is so far and above the other choices. I really can't see why anyone would pick anything else. What does that mean? It means, folks, that Taliban is probably going to get a points associated with it in the not too distant future, which is, I'm going to say, a bit of a shame. Not because I don't think they shouldn't cost points. It's more that we really won't have another thing to pivot to. So if someone picks another thing, it might be, so I'll mention this, Plague Cyst. So Plague Cyst, I believe, is the next slide, Gaio. This is the only other one that I'm even kind of remotely into. It says add 5 to the control scores of friendly non-hero Rotbringer units while they're wholly within 12 of a Nurgle Demon unit. So this formation I could see being extremely useful with, say, Puscoil Blightlords, and you're taking multiple MSU units of Puscoil flies with demon flies. So the Puscoil flies are typically are OC2 on each, so 4, and banging them up to 9 is actually pretty darn good. And all you have to do is fly a unit of demons wholly within 12 of it. It's not hard to do, it's not hard to execute. That would be probably the only other one I would maybe consider, a fast mobile fly list that maybe leverages this formation. But I just don't see anyone taking that over Taliban. Taliban is just so bonkers good. In this book, there isn't a slide on this, but in this book, disease got a bit of a glow up. So that's the big upswing. It definitely got boosted. It is no longer bad D3 mortal wounds, but just straight up D3 mortal wounds, which is great. Rotbringers, when the units die on a 4+, they spread disease. This used to be a formation in the previous edition or previous supplement of Maggotkin. It is now just part and parcel for their battle traits. So all Rotbringers, when the units get wiped out, can spread disease. That's pretty cool. Another really cool thing they get to do is they now have the option of picking targets that are not within combat range. So if there's an enemy unit within 7 inches, I believe it's on a 4+ or 3+. On a 4+, I believe. 7 inches, yeah, 4+. On a 4+, they get to gain a disease. So that's kind of neat. Again, this was something that was attached to the Feculent Gnarlmaw before, the tree. It's again now part of the battle traits. They kept Burst Pustules, and that was something that the studio did to kind of amp up and lift a Maggotkin, because the disease mechanic wasn't really doing much, and because the rest of the army didn't do much damage-wise, they needed to make the disease better. So they did that adjustment, and they kept that adjustment for this book. So burst, what is burst pustules? When an enemy unit that's diseased dies on a 3+, you pick another enemy unit with a 9 and spread disease to that unit. So lots of little vectors now to spread disease. A general improvement, more solid damage. You're doing a minimum of 1 mortal wound to 3. So you combine those, like that much improved disease mechanic with Taliban, it just becomes the default choice. Just becomes the default choice. All right, so I wonder if anyone's on chat. Well, let's go find out right now. I'm coming. While I'm doing that, do any of you think of another formation? Do you like any of these other formations? Nurgle's Menagerie, which is crit hits on companion weapons, is kind of cool. Sure, I guess. Crit hits on what? On what companion weapons? Magathords. Those are the only companion weapons that are worthwhile doing. So, because the flies, what are you doing out of companion? You're squeezing 1 extra hit, right? Because each fly has 6 attacks. You squeeze 1 extra hit on averages. That's not exactly something, like the opportunity cost is, ooh, I could squeeze 1 extra hit, or I could have Taliban. That's not a choice. That is not a choice. I'm 2 and, oh geez. I'm going to call you I'm 2. How's that? Very excited for this. I'm very excited to have you here. How's that? CJT Canada. Oh dang, didn't know about this stream about Nurgle. Excellent. Well, I'm glad you're here for it. And boys, I want you to actually chat, ask questions, and especially what I want to hear is if anyone's experiences, because I'm telling you something, this stream's going to have some very controversial perspectives on some units that a whole bunch of people said are either great or garbage, and that mostly came from playing games. So I'm looking forward to hearing if what you heard. Because what are we really? These channels is just a dude with a camera. You know what separates me and you? The camera. That's it. Yes, I've been playing the game for a really long period of time. Yes, I've been involved in the hobby for a long period of time. But so have most of you. Your opinions are just as valid as anybody else's, especially on any stream or channel. CJ, until the point update coming, the other ones will be relevant. Yeah, relevant or irrelevant? Because unless they point Taliban like 50 points, I'm taking it at 30. Like, it's not even a choice. I guess, what am I going to do? What are we pivoting to? Affliction Cyst? Each time you make a run roll for a friendly non-monster Maggotkin or Nurgle Demon unit, you could change that to 4. How could this be good? I can tell you how it could be good. If you take a lot of Plague Bearers, right, and you're going for a swamping control style list, maybe. Plague Bearers move 4 inches. So that running big is actually pretty relevant. And then they could just kind of hang out on circles, I guess. But I ain't taking that over Taliban. All right. Next, what else are we doing? Next slide, I think. Next slide, we start looking at the lore. All right, up on the screen right now should be Fleshy Abundance. I'm gonna more or less skip the heroic and the artifacts enhancements. I'll tell you, this is just really uninspired. There's not a lot of choice. So if you're taking heroic trait, you're probably taking Febrile Frenzy. And if you're taking an artifact, you're probably taking Witherstave. Both of them are kind of like coin flips. On a 3+, they get to do the thing they get to do, and all the other options are kind of mediocre. Although I will give honorary note to Grandfather's Blessing, even though they got nerfed in this Battletome, I think there's a possible play for the Heal D3 over Febrile, and I will get to that when I get to the Great Unclean one. Anyway, enhancements, they're okay. Some obvious choices. Spell lore, I want to go over it a little bit because our spell lore is actually pretty excellent. I'm sure you've heard this from all the other guys as well. Fleshy Abundance is just absolutely tremendous. As an unlimited spell, being able to just say, hey, this unit is -1 to wound, absolutely fantastic. And even having the option to heal D3, depending on what the thing is also very, very good. What I'll say to you is you're like, well, almost -1 is almost always the case. Yes and no. Certain chassis in the Maggotkin book, because of their layered saves and then wards, adding or healing even just 1 wound is equivalent to like 2 or 3, if you understand my meaning, because they're so hard to get wounds through. Just adding D3 heal can really make a difference. And if you're strapped for something, like you need to spend a CP to cast a spell and you choose this spell and you're trying to go, do I go -1 wound or do I go extra wounds? It depends on obviously how much damage the big thing is taken, because most likely it'll be a big thing, something with 14 wounds or more. It will depend on that. But like -1 to wound on something that's on its last legs, like down to 2 or 3 wounds, I would much rather have D3 extra wounds, for instance. Why? Because when I all out defense, I'll be saving on 3s with a 5-up save. So they got a hit, they got a wound, and then I get 2 other opportunities, 2 other layers on top of that. Those extra wounds are going to matter. Whereas a -1, if I'm already hanging on by my fingernails, probably not as good. In any case, I'm waxing on about something that you guys probably already know. What I love about Fleshy Abundance, it is now cast on a 6. It used to be cast on a 7. Absolutely fantastic. And this spell alone makes all our 2-cast wizards a lot better than their points indicate, because of their overall effect on the game. So for instance, if you think one of our 2-cast wizards is too many points, factor in the fact that this is part of their repertoire and they can still then cast another spell. It really does elevate them. If we go to the next slide, Guile, that should be Crippling. Crippling Despair. Crippling Despair, again, a fantastic little spell. What I really appreciate about the spell is that it's an 18-inch range, not 12 where it's practically useless and only the most disgusting spells should be at. Not 24, which is ridiculously too powerful. 18, great number, makes it useful. You could actually pop it off reasonably well or often in a regular game. And a great effect saying that the target unit can't use commands. So fantastic. Again, cast on a 6, absolutely phenomenal. And again, I'll say this, in the context of this game, because Nurgle have become a powerful spellcasting army, casting on a 6 is not a problem, or at least generally not a problem. The next spell, which is Cloying Quagmire, cast on a 7, so a little bit more difficult. And I can't tell you how much of a difference it is 6 and 7. It is not just 1 point, it's lots and lots of percentage points, roughly 17, 18 percentage points. So it is a big, big difference. But again, has an excellent range of 18 inches, useful, pick a target in half movement. That is fantastic. Take a problem unit that you're just having a hard time cracking, or you don't want to coordinate into you, meaning you don't want to be dogpiled by, and you could potentially push them right out of the game by cutting their movement in half. If they're a 3-up save, they suffer another -1 to their runs and a -1 to their charges as well. So half move, -1 charge. Absolutely backbreaking. And again, an excellent spell with a great range. Overall, the lore, our spell lore for our wizards, Lore Malignance, is absolutely excellent. Great job by the design team. I don't think any of this is crazy. I don't think any of this breaks the game. It can be, it's good. I can say that. I don't think your opponents are going to say otherwise. That's for sure. But I don't think it is so oppressive or so crazy outside the scope of the game. So excellent. Now let's get to something that is not quite as good. And that is our priest lore. Okay, so I'm happy we have it. Why? Because we didn't have a lore before. At the current recording of this, there is the Scourge of Gyran lore, which is chef's kiss. Some would say a little too strong. And I'm not going to lie, it is the lore I'm currently using right now, and we can still use it for the next, I believe, 5 months or so. And from my cold dead hands, will you take that from my hands? This prayer lore is magnitudes worse. So the one from Scourge of Gyran, all the lores or all the chants go off on a 3+ and get their super versions on 6s. So 3s and 6s. This lore is 3s, 4s. So sometimes channel 3s, 2 of them channel 4s, and 10s. 10 is just an absolutely terrible break number. I kind of understand why they did it, because there is a unit in the army that can give +1 chant, and they didn't want to make it that gross. But 10 is so bad. After 2 rounds of charging up, on average, your priest will have 7. So let's assume your opponent goes first. You charge on their turn. It hits your turn. You charge on your turn. Not casting, just charging up. Assuming you didn't roll any 1s, you'll have 7 prayer points. You go into the next round. Whoever wins priority, you try to cast that spell. If you don't roll a 3 or higher, you don't get the extra boosted version of the prayer. And that's a lot. I don't think there's really any other army that has priests that suffer from that yoke of that. Most of the time, if you charge twice, you're hitting your critical mass for your super version of your prayer. But we don't. They're often doing it on their off turn. So what I mean by that is another priest will cast on your turn, and then on theirs they could actually do their super version, where we have to do cast on their turn, so charge up on their turn, charge up on our turn, to then maybe do it the next following turn. So that's the first layer. The second layer, man, who in the heck designed Gift of Disease? This is an absolutely terrible, terrible prayer. Until the start of your next turn, subtract 1 from the wound rolls. Okay. 4 attacks made by enemy units while they are in combat with the chanter. While they're in combat with the chanter. So, wait a second. So, I moved up, I guess. They then charged me. I survived. And then I get to use this spell? It's our unlimited prayer. Blows my mind. How is this the same person? Who worked on the spell lore and who worked on the prayer lore? Is that the same guy or the same person? Or are these 2 different people? Because I got to tell you right now, this is... And to think we're going to lose our Scourge of Gyran prayers for this. Yeah, I'm real disappointed in this. There's no other way to put that. And you're like, okay, well, maybe one of our priests could survive in combat. I guess the Harbinger would be our best bet. The Harbinger is on a 3-up save. He's got 7 or 8 wounds. Not exactly a house. And definitely any combat unit that wants him gone, he'll delete him. So the only way the Harbinger is surviving is if if the enemy unit is being simultaneously engaged by something nasty that they actually want to target, and him. Are you lining up those stars to get the Harbinger into combat so you're able to drop a gifted disease and go, you're -1 to wound me?
One of them's for City because I did discover.
Who decided this? This is so bad. Yeah. Oh man, I am not looking forward to losing Scourge of Gyran prayers. This is just, yeah. Anyway, you see them on the screen. They exist. They're not nothing, so our priests do have something to do. But really, this is a 2-prayer lore, not really a 3-prayer lore, which is what's so bad about it. It's just so bad. The other prayer, which is favored Pox, is until the start of your next turn, subtract 2 from charge rolls from the target. This has a great range of 18 inches. This is good. It's chanted on a 4+. And then the 10+ is subtract 1 for the number of dice rolled. Again, this prayer is pretty big. I like it. The effect is powerful. It kind of deserves a 10+ because of the subtraction of a die from a charge roll. That's a good solid prayer. Then bloated with sickness. Until the start of your next turn, ignore the first damage point. I really don't think this should be cast on a 4. And the 10+ is pick another eligible unit to be the second target. I don't even know if I described this clearly enough. Okay, so the target that's picked by the prayer suffers 1 less damage per phase. Now, it's a pretty potent ability. What I would have loved to have seen is it be an actual aura. So typically what makes these abilities or that type of ability good is that it is an aura. Picking 1 unit and then to only be able to do a second unit on a 10+ is just, okay, you know what? Bad. That's what it is. It's just bad. I don't know how else to put that. I just, yeah, not really feeling the prayer lore. All right, Gaio, we still good, buddy? All right. I haven't said this, but I want to thank Gaio. He's in the back room right now, DJing in the DJ booth, making sure that we are able to get this stream out. I appreciate him coming out today and helping me out. I just wanted to get, there I am, I'm back. Okay, so cool. So that's prayer lore. It's okay. Pierre-Luc, hey bro, how are you doing, Pierre-Luc? Have you played Maggotkin of Nurgle? I'm sure your meta is boiling. I don't know what it's like everywhere else, but Maggotkin have created quite the fever pitch in the store. A lot of people all of a sudden becoming big fans of Maggotkin of Nurgle. They are a phenomenal, well, they're just a really freaking cool army. Okay, so I've gone to the actual chat. CJ is asking, is there a world that you make the Guo a priest? These pairs are viable. Okay, so I want you to follow me here for a sec. So first off, you're referring to a Scourge of Gyran enhancement. So yes, in that world, you're taking that enhancement that makes your Guo a priest. So if you're in that world, why in the heck would you pick this over the Scourge of Gyran priest lore? You're not. You're just not. So if you have the enhancement that makes you a priest, you're not picking this lore. And then when you lose that enhancement to make it a priest, so that's my answer to that. It's just it's not a world you're living. Now, if you're telling me you're making your Guo a priest and you're picking the prayer lore out of the book, Godspeed to you. Like you are a much bigger man than I. Like about the size of a great unclean one, actually kind of big. Pierre-Luc says, I play Tzeentch. Well, Tzeentch is also really, really cool. I also have a massive Tzeentch army. But why wouldn't I? All right, anyway. Let's look at the very first War Scroll. Now, we're going to go a little unusual in the War Scrolls in the sense is I'm going to be talking about this and how they relate. I'm doing it in a specific order, long story short. We're going to start off with Rodigus. Rodigus is the festering, beating heart of this book. He is pretty much an auto-include. Hate using terminology like that, but his effect is so powerful that it is undeniable. If we were to say that disease is a huge part of your strategy as a Maggotkin player, then Rodigus is at the center of that plan. Now, why do I say that? It is primarily because of his Deluge of Nurgle spell. So it's cast on an 8, so kind of difficult to cast. You pick all enemy targets within 18 inches of them, all of them. Each one of them that have been chosen take 1 mortal wound, but that's not actually the big deal. The big deal is this. Until the start of your next turn, while they are within 18 inches of this unit, enemy units cannot use or be picked to be the target of any abilities that heal or return slain models to this unit. That is bonkers. Absolutely bonkers. You take disease, the only way to get rid of it is by healing or rallying. You just don't. I'm sorry. You're just now going to be diseased. And if I cast a spell again, you're still going to be diseased. So you're just turning your opponent's army into compost. Absolutely phenomenal. And that is against anybody. Now, factor in our traditionally bad matchups, that being Sylvaneth, Soulblight, any army that heals a ton, Trolls if they ever come back in fashion again. Those armies are now paying for points for abilities that they just cannot use. And now instead of they being the bad matchup for us, we, or more specifically Rodigus, is their bad matchup. I can't stress enough how incredibly amazing. In play tests, he's just been absolutely incredible. At 410 points, I don't want to put into the universe how many points I'd pay for this guy. I'll let the designers come up with that number. But at 410, folks, it is a gift. It is a gift. He slaps pretty well. I say pretty well because he's not often going to be in combat. Not often in combat. That's actually a lie. Almost every single one of my games, he eventually goes into combat because he's no slouch. He's got 5 attacks, 3s, 2s, -1, 3 flat damage, and then another 4 attacks, 3s, 2s, -2, 2 flat damage. That will put the finishing touches on most things in the game. So if you got it down to only a handful of models or a handful of wounds, Rodigus can wobble forward and absolutely smash the crap out of whatever's in front of him fairly reliably. And if you all out, there is a universe where he hits with everything and wounds with everything. That does happen. Not often. You'll usually roll a 1 in there somewhere. But when you don't, it's not unusual because you're hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s at that point. He lifts. But his main thing is his absolutely phenomenal Deluge of Nurgle. Phenomenal spell. So his other massive point, so we just talked about a spell, we'll talk about his other ability as well. He is a +1 to cast wizard, a 2-cast wizard I might add, +1 to cast. What's even crazier is because of the rain cloud above him, he gives a +1 to cast to all your friendly wizards, wholly within 12. Wholly within 12. Not combat range, wholly within 12. That is absolutely fantastic. There's no other way to put that. That is so good. And really what that means is now this spell is really cast on a 7. And then within the context of the game, once we add what you're normally putting in your army, which is Belga, We'll get to her in a little bit, but she adds another +1 to cast. So now the spell is cast on a 6. And that is absolutely fantastic. He is the pillar of the army. You are not building a 2,000, or if you are building a 2,000 point list, what you're actually doing is building a 1,590 point list. Because this guy's always in it. Does anyone disagree with me on that point? I think that's a fairly safe bet. I'm not like saying anything controversial here. I do not think. Rodicus is just so good. All right, so let's go. We got Inferno Storms is even better as one cannot use Place of Power at all. Any of the effects, yes, that is absolutely true because it prevents the healing as well. So it also prevents the rezzing, and I can't stress that enough. There are a few key enhancements. One is in Stormcast, where if he was caught in it and he's within 18, when he dies, he stays dead. He stays dead. So that's pretty awesome. Then we got Weebay. Rest in peace, Soggy Rodicus. Move over to the new Rainfather. Indeed. Man, how do you beat that, right? Here you got, if I told you, you guys could get a model that's a walking purple sun, and you'd be like, amazing. No, not a walking purple sun, a better walking purple sun, because it only affects enemy. Because that's been changed recently for a purple sun. Only affects enemy. And you're like, yeah, nothing will be better than this, right? Nothing. And yet, here we are, folks. Rodicus. What a great... Okay, the points cost are wrong on this model, to be truthful. But what a great design. There was an enormous amount of effort put into this. The person who worked on this either plays the army or just is really loves the army and saw there was a potential way to wiggle out. It's not automatic. There's plenty of interaction to stop this from happening. But all in all, when I read Rodicus's War Scroll, I was like, man, this is pretty good. Then we saw his points cost, and I was like, woo! All right. CJ, totally agree. Roddy is the only auto-include. And then Nick asked a very, very good question. Is this good starter army? I'm new to AoS. Is Maggotkin a good starter army? I'm going to say, oh man, I'm trying not to be biased here. Okay, so if I was your store owner, I'm a store owner, and you were to say, which army should I play? I would say, yeah, Maggotkin. First I would say pick an army that you love, and then everything will fall into place. I could teach anyone how to paint anything for any army. That's irrelevant. So painting is not a factor. Now when it comes to gaming, if you love it, you'll push through. So the most important and the best army for you to pick is the one you think is fantastic, the one you think is cool, because you are going to be staring at it for a mighty long time while painting and playing. So pick something that you love and go with it. What's especially wonderful about Maggotkin and Nurgle is it doesn't take a lot to make it look great. Whether you're using contrast, speed paint, express paint, pick your contrasty, washy type of effects. Absolutely fantastic army to paint up. An absolute pleasure. As long as you're not, queasy about holes and things, this army is for you. I love the aesthetic. I understand it's not for everyone, though. So let's go now. Next, Rodicus, Unclean One, Festus, with 3 Beasts of Nurgle and 1 unit of Plague Bearers. Okay, well, my man, Nick, we're going to get through those models, and I'm going to be expressing an opinion on them in the next little bit, okay? So, and then we're going to say, oh, my boy, Scared Cast, popping in the chat, popping to say hi. Well, you know what, buddy? Hi right back. Normally plays a lot more 40K than Age of Sigmar, but I appreciate you regardless. All right, so those are the chats. Let's go back to looking at War Scrolls before this thing gets like forever. Let's talk about the Great Unclean One. Now, the Great Unclean One, I took it to a tournament, and some of my colleagues were questioning why in the heck would you take a Great Unclean One? It's not worth it. And then, of course, I was like, well, I think it is actually pretty pretty good. And they'd be like, yeah, you took lots of demons, it could recur units. I go, yeah, it could recur units. But it does more than just those things. Here's what I like about it. Now, first off, this thing costs more points than Rodigus. That could offend some people. And that point alone will go, I don't want to take a Great Unclean One. There's no way a Great Unclean One is better than Rodigus. I am not saying that. Always take Rodigus, but I do run lists that take Rodigus and a Great Unclean One. Now, why do I do that? Okay, first we'll start off with the obvious. It is a mostly demon list, and I do like recursion. I like recursion because it's the ability to cheat within the rules or the scope of the game. You get an enormous amount of value by recurring units. The designers understand that. They're not dummies. So guess what? The thing that does that is not going to be cheap. There's a lot of units I love recurring with the Great Unclean One. Now, I thought it was just around him. And there was one game I played where I thought my opponent zoned me out and I didn't summon anything. But of course, reading the rules tells you what the rules are. And it's not just around him. It's around him or a tree. And that just opened up all sorts of possibilities. So recurring units, like for instance, drones. One of my absolute favorite units, and we'll describe it in detail in the next little bit. Drones is a phenomenal unit to recur. 3 flies. Once they get wiped out, for 1 CP, you bring back 2 flies. That sounds pretty darn good. And primarily, why I love this Great Unclean One is the flies. Why do I love the flies? Is because of the Great Unclean One. The two, to me, are very, very related. Obviously, Plague Bearers, bringing back 5 or 10 Plague Bearers is also really quite good. He does not bring back units of less than 3. What does that mean is that he will not bring back a Beast of Nurgle, but he could bring back, weirdly, Nurglings. I say weirdly because Nurglings have a built-in mechanic as well to come back. So you would never bring back Nurglings because they could kind of do it all on their own. What else? Is there any other demon stuff that I would bring back? No, pretty much the main reason why, well, one of the things I love about him is the fact that he brings back flies. So that's that. Other thing I like about him, he's a 2-cast wizard. I like that a lot. Again, our lore is excellent. And by inserting this big boy, the other second big boy, I get 4 casts. 4 casts at +2 to cast. Why? Because Rodigus gives me a +1, and Belga will also be high-fiving everyone within range to get another bonus. You're now 4 casts at +2. That is absolutely excellent. Now, you could argue and go, well, if you like the cast so much, instead of taking the Great Unclean One, why don't you just take 2 wizards and then still have extra points to get something else? And I'm like, that's fair. The Great Unclean One, though, has 20 wounds. And did I also mention he brings back units and recurs units? Things that those 2 wizards do not have. So, Great Unclean One. So far, looking pretty good. The other thing I like about him, he's a 6-inch move. I know for everyone else that plays Age of Sigmar that a 6-inch move is not that big of a deal. But from the context of Maggotkin, 6 inches is speedy. And being able to lumber this big guy forward and potentially charge a thing, pretty darn good. Because why? He doesn't suck in combat. Now, he's not a tremendous amount of attacks in combat. It's only 4. He lost all his other profiles. 3s, 2s, but Ren 2, 4 flat damage. I've now played enough games where I've seen this guy hit with everything, wound with everything, and my opponent absolutely flub on all their saves, and him smoke and hit a target for 16 damage. It's happened multiple times. It is not an impossibility. Look, I am not saying he hasn't flubbed. Typically, he will do 4 to 8 because you roll a 1 somewhere on the attack and you roll a 1 on the wound. But that is also not exactly common. So, not bad. He's robust enough, okay, that if you all-out attack with him, sure, your save will drop from a 4 to a 5. But he's got 20 wounds to back it up. So now you're hitting on 2s, wounding on 2s. At 2 rend, 4 flat damage. That is a very, very consistent number. And it's a lever you can pull and an option you have with this robust chassis. On top of the fact that he can recur demon units. I can't stress that enough. On top of the fact that he's a 2-cast wizard. So, do I like him? I do, but I'm not even done yet. He's also got a really cool shooting attack. Now, cool in the sense that if there's an opponent within 7 inches, he can do some damage. D3 plus 3, hits on 3s, wounds on 2s, at a 2 rend, 2 flat damage. That means this guy can wobble forward, puke all over a guy, and then come at you with that big, giant building-sized sword. And the combination of those 2 things, that is a lot of damage, folks. I'm telling you, great unclean one. Not bad. All right, but I'm still not done. His War Scroll spell, I like his War Scroll spell. Cast on a 7, Plague Wind. It's what he had before, he still has now. You know what the difference is? The difference is disease got a lot better. There's no bad D3s anymore. So, what are you talking about, Lionel? Plague Wind has a range, here's the downside, 12 inches. 12 inches is short. But to be fair, disease is a powerful mechanic. So 12 inches is acceptable. It does mean that when your opponent aggresses towards you, he now has to take that into consideration. And he has to understand that he'll most likely get tagged with disease. Because that's what Plague Wind does. Sorry, I didn't even get to the details of the actual spell. It's basically cast, successfully cast, give the disease to a target unit. So a great spell. Typically, the best time to cast a spell is actually on your opponent's turn. Now, why do I say that? You have 4 casts in your army. Let's assume you're taking Rodigus and you're taking a Great Unclean One in your list. You are going to cast Deluge of Nurgle. You are going to cast Fleshy Abundance probably twice. So that's 3 of your 4 casts. And if you took any manifestation lore, you're probably going to want to bust out one of your manifestations. So that's all 4 of your casts. So that's one of the reasons why this spell gets pushed into your opponents. I'm like, oh, wait, you don't have to do those things, Lionel. It's like, you don't. But the problem is, if your opponent, it's your turn, if your opponent gets tagged with the disease, after you've done all your hero phase stuff, he gets to do his hero phase stuff, and he'll just rally that off. And you've now occupied a slot out of your 4 possible casts on something that could be easily taken off any target. So don't cast Plague Wind on your turn, is the rule of thumb. I'm not saying there isn't an exception, but rule of thumb is do not cast Plague Wind on your turn. Now, why do you want to cast it on your opponent's turn? Well, after they've done all of their hero phase stuff, one of which is already rallying, because now they're done, you get to do your thing. So that does mean that instead of casting it on 7, you're casting this on an 8, but you do have a +2 to cast in the context of that army, and applying a disease at the end of your opponent's hero phase is a big deal. Now they have to dance around that unit that's diseased because nothing wants to be close to it. That unit is going to be eating D3 mortal wounds. If they're not careful, it is now a vector for you to spread on. Absolutely fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Now, there is an exception to casting Plague Wind on your opponent's turn, okay? Or sorry, I should say on your turn, on your turn. Here's the exception. Okay, this is from gameplay and connecting dots. Take Twillet Sorceries with the mirrors. Now, I'm not exactly making sure I'm remembering this correctly, but if I remember correctly, the mirror, when the first spell you pump through that mirror, gets a +1 to cast. Okay, so envision this. You just finished deploying. You pick a unit that is going to be the propagation target, the patient 0, the one that has been chosen to be the thing you want to vector all your disease off of. Let's just say there's no real viable target. Okay, so what I mean by that is there's nothing unless you roll a 5 on 6 on both those D3s that get them to disease. Let's just say you're playing Sons of Bahamut. And the Sons of Bahamut, unless you roll 5s and 6s, it will not be diseased. Yes, he will be the propagation target. Oh, no, I'm just being all, what's it called? Plague progenitor. Sorry, I'll use the correct terms. The progenitor target, but he will not be diseased. Fine. You then cast mirrors on your turn. Cast the disease at +3 to cast. Plague Wind at +3 to cast. Tag the progenitor with the disease, and he will not be able to heal in the first round. So that would be the one moment I would use Plague Wind on my own turn, is if I took Twillet Sorceries and I wanted to make sure that the Plague Progenitor was diseased, basically. Otherwise, you could look at still doing that on your turn, and what you're saying with Plague Wind is you're going to get 1 less CP every time I cast this spell, because there's no way your opponent is not going to try to rally it off the target. That in and of itself, folks, is absolutely fantastic. So why do I like the Great Unclean One? I think he's fucking, oops, shouldn't have swore. I think he's freaking cool, that's why. Absolutely freaking cool. He's an absolutely fantastic beast. I love the model as well. And the more fat boys on my table, the happier I am. What do you all think? Anything I said strike a chord with you? Nick Castillo, what do you mean by recur? Recur is recursion, and a short form for it, and that is the returning of models to the table. So, for instance, Soulblight has the ability to recur models or raise models from the dead, bring back models, even bring back whole units as well, for that matter. Cannonhead, greetings from Iceland. Per an earlier question, I think Nurgle's great army to start with, especially for a new painter. The army looks gross and splotchy, and so many mistakes look purposeful. Yes, and it paints like a dream. Nick Castillo, thanks, I appreciate it. I want to use that list I made. Is it good? I'll get to it once you find out what I mean by, or what I think about all those units. And then CJ also piping in going, will you be talking about the battle tactics and how each one works with the Nurgle, good and bad? Yeah, I could talk about that. There are a few ones that are sticking out. Few. It's not really a few. I think more or less, CJ, I'll tell you right now, Restless is probably the default. And the thing I've been taking more of is Attuned to Gairan. You could take Wrathful, but that requires you to be underdog to unlock the second layer of it. What I like about Attuned is, I'll talk about specific army builds. I think our army or our play style more or less meshes with Attuned really well. And when I start talking about the drones and the flies, I'll expand on this. But those are my two favorite ones as it stands right now, Restless and Attuned to Gairan. I know Attuned to Gairan, folks, is not a popular choice for many armies. But I'll explain when I get to the drones why I think it's a cool, viable option. How's that? All right, so Great Unclean One, I think is absolutely I think it's good. I think it's good. I've been enjoying it. It's been testing very, very well. I like its spells. I like the chassis. It is a lot of points. It is 430 points. So between Rodigus, Belga, and this boy, you're clocking roughly 1,000 points of your army. So certainly not a small investment in models, that's for sure. So mileage may vary, I guess, but I love them. All right, now we're going to jump around. We're going to go to Horticulus. Now, Horticulus is another glorious model from the range. Picture a little plague bearer riding a snail. I love the look of this model. The big deal with Horticulus is he can summon a second tree. So our army gets our terrain feature. The terrain feature is a tree. Now what's very interesting about the tree is you could start it on the table, or at the beginning of a hero step, you may plant one anywhere outside of your territory, anywhere on the table in fact. And what I've been finding is if I'm playing demons, I typically do not deploy my tree on the board. And if I'm playing a lot of mortal stuff or Rotbringers, I typically do place it on the board. Now, the main reason why is simply what the tree does for both those armies or both those styles of units. The tree gives you an extra 3 rally or an extra rally die for demons. And then for the mortal side, it gives an extra boost to their ward. So obviously, starting the game within the bubble of a tree to make sure you guys are on a 5-up board is actually pretty good. Whereas demons don't need it. I rather position my tree more aggressively in no man's land, or maybe even my opponent's territory. That's no longer their territory because we're in now start of the game. But on their side of the board, and using them as a summoning point for when I recur my units of demons, or even my Nurglings. So why am I talking about a tree? Well, because Horticulus brings a second one. And that is really, really relevant when you're talking about the mortal portion of our book. Once you start talking about Rotbringers and boosting their reward save, Horticulus becomes part of that conversation. And I find that Horticulus and Rotbringers, or mostly mortal list, pretty much gel all the time. He's pretty much an auto include for my mortal portion of my army. I have been designing lists that are primarily either all demons with a tiny bit of mortals in it that are support cast, or mostly mortals and a tiny bit of demons. So I know if some believe this guy's an auto include, I haven't been finding that. It's only an auto include depending on whether I take Glockkin, whether I take a bunch of Pestigors, that sort of thing. I find the tree then becomes super clutch, and obviously more tree is good, and more tree, that's where Horticulus then now comes in. Other than that, he can bring back a Beast of Nurgle. He's the only source of that, and that's fine. Cool. His stat line is not all that anything really to write home about. So Horticulus is basically an auto-included all my mortal lists. And there it is. Okay, so anything else? I don't think so. So let's go to the next slide. We're looking at Festus, Gaio. All right, we hit Festus. What can I say about Festus? If there was a way, I got nothing positive to say about him. It's an absolute nerd war crime that this guy has the rules he has with such a beautiful model. Breaks my heart. 320 points. Now, he is a 2-cast wizard. But Lana, you said 2-cast wizards are really good. Two-cast wizards are really good. This isn't the two-cast wizard I want, though. I'd much rather have the Great Unclean one. Who would design a wizard that unlocks his special rules while in melee? Like, have you guys tested this and found that he's amazing? Like, I got buddies who come to me, but Lionel, he could one-shot an ironclad off the board. What KO player is going to move an ironclad into a model that would allow them to do that? This guy moves 5 inches. His spell is terrible. The fact that I have to account for these leeches and then keep track of all this, just ridiculous. 320 points is... So you're playing, what is it now? You're playing Cruel Boys. This reminds me of Cruel Boys. Cruel Boys has a wizard, Gobsprak. He's a two-cast wizard. When that model came out, he was close to 400 points. He was like 380 points. He's a two-cast wizard with a 4-up save, 12 wounds. No, actually, it might be 14. You know what? We'll look it up. How's that? Gobsprak, where are you at? Gob. Sprack. Boom. Yeah, 14 wounds. 5-up save, not a 4-up save. But moves 12 inches, so actually very, very useful. He was at close to 400 points, 380 points. You know what he is right now? Two-cast wizard as well. 260 points. Now, is it fair to compare Gobsprak to Festus? No. Gobsprak is in Cruel Boys with their own lore. Festus is in a book with, I would say, not even arguably, a better lore. Is it that much better? It just fills me with disappointment that this guy is just so bad at 320 points. And I kept on thinking of at what points level would I consider taking Festus? I would take him at 270, I think. I think I'd take him at 270 as it stands right now with the rules that he's got. Because the two-cast wizard is really good. He's got 14 wounds. That's really good. So he's durable-ish. I say ish because obviously if he gets in a mix-up, he will die. But I struggle, folks. Tell me something. I'm going to go to now the chat. Do any of you have used Festus yet? And actually, no? None of you are piping up. I struggle. I struggle to figure out a universe where Festus is actually good in the game. I don't know. It's definitely a points cost thing for sure. 320 is not it. 270, maybe it's too cheap. I don't know. But I'm going to tell you right now, it's not 320, and he has to be lower, under 300 points for me to even remotely consider him. Do I own him? Yes, because he's a gorgeous and beautiful model. And I'll say this, folks, when we're talking about rules, that is all temporary and paper. Those move on. Models last for decades. So I am speaking about the models and the units from a competitive perspective, but for the collection purposes, Festus is pretty much an auto-include in my collection. He's a gorgeous piece. Looking forward to actually maybe doing something with him in the not too distant future. Well, lol, that's good to know about Festus. Nick, I'm not saying I'm right, my friend. I am simply expressing my opinion. And this is an extremely biased opinion. There's not a single list I have that uses them. That's my biased opinion. Maybe your mileage will differ, maybe there's a genius out there that says, Lionel, you're wrong. And I'm like, this guy's fantastic. I'd love to see that. I really would, because ultimately the model is absolutely stunning. All right, let us now go into our next War Scroll. Where are we at? Next War Scroll, we got the Maggotkin. We're going to talk about the Maggotkin, and we're going to talk about him fairly brief. A lot of people feel extremely positive about Maggotkin. I'm going to echo that. I feel positive about him. I don't think there's anything that is exceptional about Maggotkin other than the context of the army he's in. And what I mean by that is he is not the best damage dealer in the game of Age of Sigmar. Forest points, I mean. Like, there's lots of models that do lots of damage and units that do lots of damage in the game, and he's not the best of it. Like, he's not as good as Vanguard, for instance, or he's not as good as, well, there's lots of reasons why he's not as good as Vanguard. But what I'm trying to say is he's a great model. You have him in your collection. You're not going to be embarrassed to use him. He hits really, really hard. The issue I have with the Maggotkin is he's got a 6-up ward save instead of a 5. So if you found him that he died relatively quick before, guess what? He dies even faster now. And a lot of guys, whoa, Lionel, it is not hard to get this guy within 12 inches of a tree. Thank you very much. And I'm like, yeah, that's true. But your opponent also knows that. So what does that mean? It means you're going to plant your tree at the beginning of the game. You're going to go right to the edge of the bubble of the tree. And then what? Not charge out? So your opponent knows this, right? Your opponent knows that you only have a 5-up save while wholly within 12 of the tree. So that means if you're on the edge of that bubble, he would have to be a fool to charge you, correct? Okay. So guess what he doesn't do? He doesn't charge you. And you only move 6 inches. Now, 6 inches is fast for us, but it's not exactly fast in the game. It's not hard to go, how far do you move? 6? Okay, cool. Add another this, and now you need a 10 or 11 to charge me. And then if you make that charge, your shields are down. Sure, you'll kill the thing that I let you charge. I'm not a giant fan of Maggotkin. Take that as you will. Love the freaking model. I own it, fully assembled. Will I paint it? I will eventually paint it because he is freaking cool. And any mission, battle plan that plays with objectives in the center of the board, absolutely fantastic. Because what you could do is just plant yourself on that objective and go, I'm not going to chase you around. You want this objective, come get it. I'm just going to guard this objective like a bulldog, and you will not get this. And that's reason enough, and you could force the issue and force your opponent to have to charge you. In that universe, absolutely fantastic. In a proactive universe, which is what I have a problem with the majority of the mortal stuff, I do not like that I'm chained to the tree to live. So, yeah, his spell's okay. I love his horrific opponent. I actually dig the OC modifying effects in this book. And horrific opponent is he picks, what is he? Subtract 5 from the control scores of enemy units while they're within combat range of them. That is pretty awesome. He has an OC of 10 as well. So he can hold on to objective extremely well. Any units that come at them will have their OC reduced. So they'll have a next to impossible time to get at him. And then, of course, while you're coming at him, he'll be within 12 inches of the shadow of a tree. So that's pretty cool. But I am just not a fan of this many points. 470 to be exact. 470 points. And then him still being kind of fragile. I say kind of. 4s, 6s, 24 wounds. Hard to say fragile. What I can say is competitively, there's plenty of units on the other side of the board that will be waiting in the wings for you to step outside of that bubble, and they will just smash you and pick you up off the table. That is the truth of the matter. There's no other way to say that. And if they are committing to you while you're within the shadow of that tree, it's because they've done the math in their head and you're dead. Like, I don't know. Maggotkin's a lot of points. He's a one-cast wizard. I've had customers ask me this before, whether or not Maggotkin was a two-cast wizard. In no time ever has he ever been a two-cast wizard, folks. He did not get nerfed that way. He was only ever a one-cast wizard. So nothing got taken away. No toys got taken away. He was always a one-cast wizard. Is he a sweet model? Yes, he is. And for those of you that love him, it's not embarrassing to use him at all. He's good. He's good. Maybe it's a style thing for me. Maybe it's the fact that I like a little bit more flexibility. I don't like to be chained to the tree, maybe, which is probably why I'm pulling more toward demons. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I like the Maggotkin. I just not a massive fan of him at his points cost. And to be fair, I think his points cost is very fair. 470 points for this is pretty darn good. I wasn't interested in him at all at 500 or more. So when I saw his points at 470, I think that's a very, very solid number. I think he's good. Okay, next slide we get to are the Maggoth Lords. It'll be artwork pictured in the slide around me. And long story short, I want to review all of them. I like them all for different reasons. Do I like Blowab the most? Yeah, I like Blowab the most because he is a wizard. And because we can get all these bonuses to casting our spells. Being a wizard is a big bonus. Because I'm always taking Radagast. And I'm probably almost always taking Belga. And then getting a +2 cast on Blowab is just really, really nice. He's slappy enough. He hits hard enough. All these guys are basically 260, 270, are in around that range. So they're a good amount of points for what they are, which are 14 wound models, typically with a 4-up save. One of them has a 3-up save. That's a good amount. Those are good, solid numbers. They are objectively worse than before because they now only have a ward save of 6. But because Blowab is more a support guy, he could be within the tree and still be very useful because he can cast his spells and he could be like a beta strike kind of guy. Whereas if a guy steps into your unit of plague bearers or what have you, you can then follow up with Blowab and he could still do things. He brings a few little mechanics to the table that I like. One is his spells, which is cast on a 6. So under that, he cast on a 4. Okay, under those bonuses we were describing before, cast on a 4, and he can just turn off weapon abilities. Absolutely devastating to some armies, like Cruel Boys, for instance. All of a sudden they lose crit mortals. That's a big freaking deal. Now the range of the spell is short. It's 12 inches. Is what it is. But maybe after Varangard committed to the unit and they're kind of just hanging out there, being able to turn off the crit mortals on a Varangard unit, pretty darn good. He's also got a thing called Demon Flies. It happens on a 3+ and subtract 1 for the attack's characteristic of target's melee weapons for the rest of the turn, not round. So, I thought it was going to be round, but it's a rampage ability. He has to be in combat with them as well. But I mean, once he commits, let's just say that we have that Varangard scenario, and you commit into him with Blowab on a 3+, you get the strip and attack, strip the weapon abilities off the weapons. That doesn't sound terrible. Plus, he's a wizard. And the Maggots themselves, and this is true of all the Maggots across all 3 of them, have 5 attacks. 4s, 2s, 2 rend, 3 flat damage. Like, this is decent. I dig it. Blowab's good for his points. Orgots, he's the guy with the 3-up save. What I like about Orgots is he's a team player, and what I mean by that is he's got a rampage called Grasping Tongue that works, again, on a 3+. Everything's on a 3+, folks. But when he grasps the unit on a 3+, all attacks that target that unit get a +1 to wound. So if you have Orgots and a unit of Pestigors going in, +1 to wound Pestigors, wounding on 2s, not bad, not bad. So Orgots, I think, is also good. Again, Same thing, Maggoth Lord. The damage output between Blowab and Orgots are roughly about the same between the shooting and swings from Blowab and between the swings from Orgots. They're roughly about the same. And then Morbidex. I'm going to tell you right now, Morbidex is absolutely fantastic. I love the fact that he heals all by himself at the end of every turn. I think he's great because Nurglings are great. Nurglings are so good, and the fact that they just come back at the end of any end step, we'll get into it more when we get to them, but the fact that he amps them up and allows them to, instead of be beasts, actually count each one of their bases as one OC is relevant. The fact that they come back complement him. Again, he hits really well, and he's the most durable of the bunch. Assuming he doesn't die, he keeps on healing, and off he goes. So, Maggoth Lords, I like them all. Would I build a list with all 3 Maggoth Lords? That'd be really hard because Rodriguez has to be involved. And now that's a big ask. Like, what are we talking about? We're talking about Rodriguez, all 3 Maggoth Lords? Are we not taking Belga? So what has happened in some of my builds is I've been taking Rodriguez, Belga, and 2 Maggoth Lords. And the 2 Maggoth Lords are pretty much always Blowab. And one or the other, Orgots or Morbidex, depending on what troops and infantry I take. So if I'm leaning more toward Pestigors or Blight Kings, I like Orgots. If I'm leaning toward a lot more chaff units, which is where I kind of lean, I've resolved in the end because I've taken so many expensive models, I want to have board presence. I take Morbidex because I like Nurglings in that case. So I think they're decent, they're good, not exceptional, not crazy, not dirt cheap by any stretch of the imagination. Let's go to now Belga, the thing that we've been talking about for the past little bit. Belga is she an auto-include? Man, she makes an awful lot of my lists and hasn't popped out yet. Okay, so why? It's because during your hero phase, she has a little aura effect. While she's within combat range or 3 inches of a wizard, all wizards that are within that distance she could give a +1 to cast or a +1 to chant. Now, the +1 to chant isn't something I've been exercising, but currently right now with the Scourge of Gairan, I think honestly you could do some fun stuff with Scourge of Gairan and Belga with +1 chance. Like Belga 2 Harbingers or Belga a Harbinger and a foot hero that has that priest enhancement. I can't remember what it's called. Unconscious something or other. I can't remember what it's called. Anyway, at 3 priests at +1 to chant, that is really gross on a chant lord that chants all on 3s and really explode on 6+. Are you kidding me? I think there's something there. Now, I haven't explored that yet, but if any of you have, let me know. I mean, in my head, theoretically, sounds absolutely amazing. Now, what I have taken advantage of is the +1 to cast. And I typically have been doing that with Rodriguez, a Great Unclean One, and Belga, or Rodriguez, Blowab, and Belga. I think those are all viable options. Maybe you could grab some sorcerers and mix it in there. Your choice, your flavor. But the fact that she gives that bonus to cast just makes her so tremendously good. And while Scourge of Gairan is in play, folks, she is a priest, so she does or can chant the current Scourge of Gairan spell lore. Like the fact I've been firing off Agonizing Vomit all the time, giving my bonuses to my movement with her. So she's now become the go-to priest. So much so that Harbinger pretty much has been pushed out of almost all my lists. Unfortunate, but it is true. She's just far too much of a toolbox for Harbinger to compete. That's literally it. There is no comparison. Harbinger is nowhere near as good as Belga. So Belga the Sith Witch is absolutely fantastic. For those of you that haven't grabbed Dark Water. That's the only place you can really grab Belga. I think most stores can order some of the villains from that set. I believe that's available. Another option, actually, is Fecula from the Underworld's warband. She's also on a 40 mil base. Fecula is also a beautiful, beautiful girl, and she makes a great proxy for Fecula. So if you have that in your collection, bust out Fecula, that fat bottom girl, and make that rockin' world go around. So Belga, absolutely fantastic choice. So let's go back to the chat. CJ, will you be talking about battle tactics? I just did that. Well, we just talked about Nick. So this army is all about resilience and strength. It's actually all about resilience. Some strength for sure, and spellcasting. I've been finding that my Maggotkin army is a powerhouse in the hero phase. I'll say that. The only reason why it is not gross is that the Nurgle lore is not aggressive. It's not a lore that pours out a ton of damage. You can supplement that with a manifestation lore that emphasizes more damage, and all of a sudden all those casts will do more for you. Like maybe you want to take Jaws. Jaws lore has, I believe, the skull as well. Jaws do a lot of mortal wounds and what have you. Maybe you want to take Morbid Conjuration. Morbid Conjuration has Purple Sun, Chains. Chains does phenomenal splash damage. What else does Morbid have? Those are the two things I use mostly from Morbid. It does have two more, and I failed to remember them. Purple Sun, Chains. Come on now. Has it been that long since I used it? Whatever. You get my point. You can do more damage, maybe through manifestations. But I've just been finding the fact that it's very useful to set up my debuffs is primarily what Nurgle is all about. Debuffing the opponent and messing with his game, basically. Okay, so Belga, pretty much close to an auto-include. Again, this is not earth-shattering. I am not saying anything unusual. The next hero I want to talk about is Sloppity Bilepiper. Now, Sloppity Bilepiper is one of the demon heroes, and he is absolutely fantastic. When I initially saw this war scroll, I was like, okay, this is useful. But you know what? He has been an all-star in all my games. Being able to hand out a +2 to run and a +2 to charge on the same unit is fantastic. And what's more important about it is the way he uses the ability, or what activates the ability. It is a die roll, but it's a die roll that's actually pretty easy to do. It says you pick a target unit and roll a dice. If the roll equals or exceeds the target's control characteristic, add 2 to the runs and charge rolls. So if you pick Plague Bearers, it's pretty much automatic. You have OC1 and you can't roll worse than that. And then there's other units that are OC2. So on a 2+, this ability goes off. So a very, very reliable way to get your smaller demons into really cool positions to be able to cap or ground and pound. Now, the reason why I bring this up is, although this is all over now, TTS and what have you, a lot of the guys have been playing Maggotkin, is the Sloppity Bilepiper pairs extremely well with the Cankerborn. Gaio, that's the next slide, please, sir. The Cankerborn are definitely one of my fave units out of this book. Initially, I was like, these guys are okay. But the more I use them, the more I like them. They're 200 points. So first off, they're 200 points. But each one of these demons, Cankerborn demons, because there's a unit of 2 of them, each one of them has 6 wounds. Each one of them has 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 damage, or I should say 1 rend, 3 flat damage. So total is 12 wounds between the two models, 8 attacks between the two models. Did I also say they have crit mortal wounds? Really good, just raw damage stats in an army that doesn't have a lot of raw damage. So Cankerborn do deliver in that sense. Is 200 points a little too much? I'm not done yet. So Cankerborn, at the end step, get to pick a piece of terrain within 12 inches and pollute it. During their next movement phase, they can teleport to any piece of terrain that they polluted. Now, they can only have a max of 2 terrain that are polluted. If you pollute a third one, you have to pull one of the other 2 that you previously polluted and now move that polluted counter to a different terrain piece. But what this means, though, is that you can move them up, tag the terrain with a pollute counter, next round, teleport them outside of 9 inches of the enemy. Okay, sorry, reverse. Pollute next round, sloppity bile piper, because that happens in your hero phase, give the unit a Cankerborn, +2 to charge. Then in the movement phase, teleport to outside 9 inches of the enemy, and now all you need to do is roll a 7 or higher to get in there with these 2 bad boys. Not only are the models really, really cool, not only do they provide a good amount of really good damage, they also provide a really cool mobility trick that is so rare that these are the only things that really do it. These guys are so good. I like them a lot. Now, I had a friend ask me, after he asked me, whether he had enough damage, he asked me, why would you pick this over a Demon Prince? So a Demon Prince for 60 points more, instead of moving 4 inches, it moves 10 because it could get wings. For 60 points, it could get a trait which could have Avalanche of Flesh, which allows them when he charges to do a great amount of mortal wounds for 60 points more, right? They basically have the same amount of a profile, almost the same amount, right? Or I should say the same quality, 3s and 3s, -1, 3 flat damage. Prince also has crit mortal wounds. And these are all true. Both have 5-up ward saves, by the way, because both are demons. So both are true, but what I said to him was this. The Demon Prince is 10 wounds, not 12. So both Cankerborn add up to 12. They are 8 attacks, not 5 or 6 that the Prince has. And the other thing I really like about the Cankerborn is they teleport. So although they don't have a 10-inch move, they can be extremely mobile and come out of weird angles that the opponent doesn't typically or isn't necessarily prepared for. And unlike the Prince, which has a tendency to travel 10 and be outside of bubbles, Cankerborn nest and then explode out. So they can get geared up with any type of buffs that you want to place on them from whatever, and then teleport out, and then still have that bonus to get in. So, up to you. But the other big difference between the Cankerborn and the Prince is they're 60 points cheaper. That also matters. That is not an insignificant amount of points. 60 points is a lot. Now, I'm not saying the Demon Prince isn't worth it. What I'm saying is I think I prefer the Cankerborn over the Prince. But there is an argument that while Avalanche of Flesh is still in play, and my counter argument to that is, you're right, Avalanche does make the demon pretty desirable, but so does the priest enhancement, and you can't have both in the list. So I could have my Cankerborn and a priest in my list, while you have the Prince for 60 points more and Avalanche. Is that better? I don't know. I think I prefer the Cankerborn. If you want to cop out, I'll say it's a style change. This fits my style more, and that's just code for I think this is better. That's what that is. I don't know. I like the Cankerborn more. All right. So what else do I got? Anything else? No other questions. Great. All right. So let's move on to next slide. We're not making too bad of a time. A little long, but I'm trying to get short. Let's get to Nurglings. Nurglings had a heck of a glow up. They lost a few things. They no longer heal at the end of a round anymore. But what they get is absolutely amazing, and that is the ability to recur whole units of them at the end of any end step. So whether you take 3 or 6, at the end step, you grab a unit of whatever that was and bring all of it, not half, all of it back. This is 100 points for 3 bases, 200 points for what? 24 wounds. That have a 6-up save, not very good. 5-up ward, pretty darn good. They have crit auto wounds still, and just generally hang. Like you can move up with a unit of 6 Nurglings, have him smashed off the table and hold the opponent. At the end of his turn, recur him at the table in a different spot. Roll for a priority or have your turn next. I don't know, whatever, depending on what stage of the game is. Move them, auto run them into position. I don't care about charging with Nurglings. I mean, if you're close and I want to bog you down, sure, I'll do it. Otherwise, I'm just running them all the time to just fence and get in the way of things. I freaking love these guys. I got nothing bad to say. I think Nurglings are absolutely fantastic. I love them at 100 points. Love their mechanic as well. So there you go. Nurglings done. Next, we go into Pox Wretches. Let's talk about one of my favorite infantry units. We're starting to get into the infantry. Okay, so Pox Wretches. I got a list that uses 40 of them. That's right. Have I actually busted it out yet? No, because I've just have to place the order and receive them and get them built. I got 14 of them built currently right now. I have to still get, I say 40, but it's really not 40, is it? It's more like 54, whatever the heck it is. 4 units of 14. What is that? 56? Anyway, 4 units of these guys I think is great. They're 100 points. So this is the other 100-point unit. So instead of maybe taking Nurglings, you take these guys. Each one has a different thing that I like. I love the recursion of Nurglings, and I love the disease output of Pox Wretches. I do not care about these guys being wholly within 12 of a tree to get a 5-up save, but I will take advantage of it if it's something I want. It's just not going to control how I play these guys, is what I'm trying to say. Now, why do I like them? Well, first off, they do attack, sure, but they're contagious. Okay, I'm going to try to say this word. Contagious Catara. It's kind of close, I hope. All right, so Contagious Catara. What does it do? They got these little Kelpie things that are tokens. I would not use any of these tokens. I would probably just use dice or chips. Or if you want to use the Kelpie tokens, they are freaking cool. They came in Darkwater. This is a Darkwater unit. So if you want really cool tokens, you can use the Kelpies. Otherwise, use chips or dice or whatever to signify the Kelpies. And then for every unit of 14 Kelpies, you get 6 Mire Kelpies. Now, the implications of this are you can reinforce these guys. So, I mean, not necessarily terrible, but not what I want to do. Now, why don't I want to do that? If I can, I'm hoping to charge with this unit. And at bare minimum, when they get wiped out, because they're a Rotbringer unit, I get an opportunity to spread disease onto my opponent. Now, this is in addition to any other disease that I do on the table. Okay? So that's cool. That's one of the cool things you get to do with disease now. The new vector that we get to actually spread disease on is when rotbringers die, when the unit dies, gets wiped out, they get to spread the disease. This is a rotbringer unit, so they get an opportunity to spread it. If they live, I get the opportunity to still spread disease, because I could cash in Kelpies to give a unit a disease counter. Basically, you roll a die, and for every Kelpie you cash in, it adds +1 to that die. And if you roll a 6+, they get a disease. So you just cash in 5, leave 1 behind for later. I don't know. It doesn't matter whether you cash in 5 or all 6. That unit's not going to survive 2 rounds of combat. So in any case, you get to spread disease. Again, this is in addition to spreading disease normally. And then they just also get to spread disease. So what I mean by that is, if the opponent is within 7 of them, and that's any Maggotkin unit, and this is now every Maggotkin unit, within 7 you get to spread it on 4+, and then if you're within combat, which I want to just jam these guys in, if they're still in combat at the end of that phase or end of that turn, they get to pick a unit that's within combat range and give a disease point. So what's the ideal? Well, the ideal is you get to charge 2 units in, you get to Kelpie one of those units, one of the other units gets wiped out, and if for whatever reason the pox wretches are within 3 of a second unit, they can spread a disease there as well. Now, it's an awful lot to line up. And it's a big ask for a unit of guys to have a 6-up save with a 6-up ward, because they're probably not going to have a 5-up ward, because they're going to be operating outside of bubbles of trees. But what you could do to stack the odds is reinforce one and not another. So make one a unit of 28 that can run in and engage and not necessarily get picked up, and just engage multiple units, so that you do increase the odds of passing a disease traditionally, and then passing another one through Kelpie, and then potentially passing one with the min 10 one getting completely killed and passing it through the Rotbringer death. That is possible. That is possible. Downside of Pox Wretches is they don't recur. Upside of Pox Wretches, boy oh boy, these guys pass disease like crazy. I can't stress enough, disease is how we do the vast majority of our damage. And yeah, I like these guys a lot. Both units at 100 points. Both units at 100 points is absolutely fantastic. So Pox Wretches, I think, are very, very good. All right, so what else are we talking about? Dive in. Next, War Scroll. Boom. All right, before you, somewhere around here, we got images of 3 of our infantry units. Now, here's where we get a little controversial. All 3 of these units are things you actually should be comparing to each other. You should not be comparing Blight Kings to Rot Swords. They are not the same points. Blight Kings are 130 points, so are Pestigors, and so are Plague Bearers. Okay. Long story short, I like all 3 of these infantry options. I know one of them you're going, what? You like Blight Kings? Yes. Yes, I like Blight Kings. I'll explain this in a second. First, let's talk about the spitball math that I do. Spitball math is, what I mean by that is, let's look at Plague Bearers. Plague Bearers have 1 attack apiece. For 130 points, you get 10 models. That is 11 attacks. They only have 1 attack apiece. They hit on 4s. My spitball math means they hit 5 times, one of which is a crit mortal wound. And then they wound on 3s, so that's 66% of the time. That's another 3 wounds. So on average, before your opponent gets to save, now I can't stress this enough, before they save, the plague bearers on average do 4 wounds. That's the spitball math I'm doing. We're not breaking it down to decimal places and fractions. Dice don't know fractions. And I don't like that factoring into when I crunch stuff in my head, figuring out whether a thing is going to be successful or not. Like 0.6 doesn't move me in any significant way. Okay, so plague bears, good. They have a built-in 5-up ward. They have 2 wounds apiece, so for 130 points, you get 20 wounds with a 5-up ward. Always a 5-up ward. You don't have to worry about bubbles of trees all the time. They get a -1 to hit when contesting an objective that they control. It's very important. I thought it was at one point just contesting an objective. That is not the case. They have to contest an objective that they already control. So if you start them on an objective in your territory, they will be -1 to hit. And that -1 to hit now is against everything, both ranged and melee. So good, solid unit. Pestigores, also 130 points, pardon me. Also 2 wounds, but a massive difference here is, 2 big ones, they have a 5-up save, whereas the demons have a 6-up save. They have a 5-up save, but only a 6-up ward. Again, you could engineer it to a point that they will have a 5-up ward, at least in your deployment zone. But the other big thing they have is they have 2 attacks apiece and a 6-inch move. A 6-inch move is absolutely glorious. Marry that with their amount of attacks that they have, fan-freaking-tastic. Now, this is a 130-point unit. Don't go thinking that these guys are the absolute bee's knees, the best thing ever. They hit on 4s, wound on 3s. They have no rend. They have a conditional rend, but the condition is very easy to fulfill. As long as that they're not in the enemy territory, they get an extra rend. So they could very feasibly, very easily be 2 attacks, hitting on 4s, wounding on 3s with 1 rend, 1 damage. Very solid choice. There's obviously going to be battle plans where they get punished a bit more, and those are the battle plans that are cut in half, where the enemy territory is literally the other half of the table, and that will mean that your herd of Pestigore are not going to be quite as effective as they can be, because once they cross that line, they lose their rend, and they probably won't be in the bubbles either. So maybe in those cases, you kind of stay on your half of the board and play for the objectives in the center. Here's hoping there's objectives in the center to play for. But there you go. At 130 points though, folks, at 2 wounds apiece, again, you're matching what the plague bearers are doing for wounds. So 20 wounds for 130 points, but you're getting faster movement and a better save, but not as flexible a ward save. All right, we get to the 3rd unit, Blight Kings. Now, Blight Kings, this is going to be the controversial thing. People say Blight Kings suck. They're terrible. And I'm going to tell you, honestly, they're wrong. I don't know how else to put this. If these guys weren't 130 points, I would be in agreement. But at 130 points, these guys are fantastic. Okay, so now why do I say that? Let's look at their stats here. First off, they have their special ability. This special ability is pointless. Out of a possible, 36 combinations on 2 dice, this affects 3 very specific die rolls. Double 1s, double 2s, and double 3s, Wizards miscast. Okay, at a 12-inch range, this thing might as well not say anything. It's kind of cool, I guess. The more significant actual debuff is against priests because it's on a 1 or a 2. And that is, because priests are only rolling 1 die, that could be actually pretty significant. Basically saying that 33% of the time, the priest spell doesn't go off. That is not nothing. My only pushback on this is it's a 12-inch range, and what priest is going to be within 12-inch range of a 4-inch moving unit, even if they run? All right, so their ability is not good. Their weapon abilities are anti-priest and anti-wizard. What priest is going to be a frontline guy that having anti-priest is going to matter? Like, can you think of a priest that is frontline? Oh, Stormcast, Iridan. Yeah, okay. Iridan moves how far? 12, 14 inches? So what are you saying? Iridan's going to, like, suicide into these guys? No. That's not going to happen. And these guys aren't dictating that engagement at a 4-inch move. So anti-priest is just a whatever. Anti-wizard, there's a possibility, there's a timeline where anti-wizard might actually be good, and that's against Soulblight, Radikar, Lukavai, Vangorian Lords. What's another powerful wizard? Archaon is a powerful wizard. Karstein, mostly undead guys. Nagash. So anti-wizard might actually factor into something in that case. But in general, kind of all around, all the abilities kind of suck. And you're like, but Lionel, you just said you like this unit. It's like, okay, I'm getting to it. Let's look at just the raw stats. And that is where I think the Blight Kings really, truly shine. They are 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, built-in red 1, 1 damage. These guys are 3 wounds base with a 5-up with a 5-up armor save and a 6-up ward. Okay. A 5-up armor save for 130 points, just fine. In fact, more than just fine. At 3 wounds apiece, really good. Now, at 130 points, this is a pool of 15 wounds. So less than the rest of the other 130 points. That makes him worse, correct? Until you get to the offense. These guys are 4 attacks. That means they're 21 attacks for 130 points. That is an average, folks, of basically 8 wounds before your opponent makes any saves. 8 wounds is nothing to sneeze at, especially when you reinforce this and it's now 16 wounds on average pushing through. That's just good. All at Rend 1. No condition to the Rend 1. You could be in your territory. You could be in their territory. The sun could be in the sky. It could be noon. It could be in the House of Aquarius. It just doesn't matter. They always have a Rend of 1. They're quality hits, hitting on 3s, wounding on 3s. 40 attacks off a unit of 10 of these guys. This is good. And at a 4-inch move, my expectations isn't for them to be moving up the board too aggressively. You could say that these guys can be in a bubble of a tree and will happily position themselves on an objective and say, come charge me. At 130 points or 260 for a reinforced unit, this is just completely fine. I really like Blight Kings. Now, here's the thing about these 3 units. I think they're all good in different ways. So just to reiterate, Plague Bears do an average of 4 wounds, Pestigores do an average of 6, and Blight Kings do an average of 8. When it comes to output, Blight Kings do the most output. When it comes to durability, Plague Bears and Pestigores almost equal. Pestigores, in the ideal situation, better durability. So you're like looking, well, maybe Plague Bears are not the best. That is actually not true. Because out of all 3 of those options, Plague Bears do something that none of the other 2 units do, and that's their ceiling. They do crit mortal wounds. So if you fluke off and roll 5 6s, they do 6 mortal wounds, as opposed to all the other damage from the other units. So I would argue that Plague Bears, Pestigores, and Blight Kings are really cool in their own way, with maybe pestigores edging out the other two options. But there's more to this conversation than just the 3 units isolated and siloed. Okay, so there's more context to these units, and that is their heroes and how they can leverage them better. So let's go look at, what do we got? I think we're in, yes. All right, let's go to Scrivener. Guile, the next slide. Spoilpox Scrivener. Spoilpox Scrivener, am I saying it right? It is. This is the much lamented. Every single person has written off this war scroll saying that it sucks. What the hell does it do? And I'm going to tell you right now, I was in the same camp until I actually just put them on the table and tried them out. And then I realized something while I was playing that I found extremely, extremely useful. And that was the fact that the Scrivener gives a unit an additional OC of 5. Let me read it to you. Roll a dice. On a 2 plus, pick one of the following. Tally of blows, which is +1 to wound, don't care. Recorded stamina, add 5 to the target's control score. 5 to the target's control score. So I was playing a game, and I was looking at the table, and my plague bearers were not midfield, but close to mid. And I was looking at my opponent's home base or objective that they could reach on and I'm like, hey, wait a second. I'm going to give these guys +5 OC, and then I'm going to auto run, and as long as one plague bearer touches that objective, it's got an OC of 7. OC of 7. Yeah, 7. 1 for the plague bearer, 1 for the banner, and then +5 from the ability off the Scrivener. What did I do? I scooped up that objective. It then went to my opponent's turn, to which I then informed them that they are now contesting an objective that they control, and now he is -1 to hit. Scrivener's 80 points. I freaking love this guy. 80 points for +5 OC. I was like, this guy's actually good. I was as stunned as anyone. I'm telling you right now, almost always I take a Scrivener now in my lists. I was just testing it out as a joke, and then I was like, holy crap, this is actually amazing. Spoilpox Scrivener can give him +2 to run, so when you roll a d6, you get another +2 to that. To tag that objective. You put 3 plague bearers on the objective, and you're on an OC of 9. After a pile in, there's just, what was hilarious was the plague bearers were already hit quite hard, so they lost a few of them. I then did that auto run, got onto the objective. He then attacked me with a bunch of stuff, leaving 1 plague bearer left. This 1 plague bearer already had piled on. Anyway, the 1 plague bearer left was the standard for that unit. And even though he had a few big things on there, like meaty boys, it wasn't OC of 7, so I still held the objective with 1 plague bearer banner boy, denying scoring on him, and it was tying up all those units as well. It was absolutely fantastic. My opinion of this Scrivener is fantastic. If you don't agree, feel free to comment in the chat. I will die on this hill. You are wrong. Scrivener's fantastic, and that's just the way it is. Spoilpox is also really, really good. Spoilpox, I just talked about Spoilpox. Sorry, the Sloppity Bile Piper is also really, really good. The only guy that I really haven't really felt all that strongly about is the Poxbringer. I just don't feel I really need him. I'm not saying I don't care about the extra attacks potential. It's the fact that the way I have to line it up is a little too difficult, and I just don't want to pay those points. I'm already paying a lot of points. I'm already squeezed for points between Rodriguez, Belga, the Great Unclean One potentially, or Blowab, or whatever, that the Poxbringer doesn't make it into my list. But if you feel different, I would love to hear about that because, like I said, I've not really tried out the Poxbringer yet. Going to chat, let's go to Paul. I wouldn't probably do it, but you could gut rot spume Blight Kings into position. So I'm not going to be going through gut rot in a massive specific way. I haven't really played with them much, but I will say this. I believe previously gut rot his ability had to be used in the first round. You no longer have to do that. So maybe pushing Blight Kings into a better position is cool. Paw, like you said, my only issue is the fact that these guys move 4 inches. I just want to leverage the tree more. I want to keep the Blight Kings within the shadow of the tree, and then if I get an opportunity, I'll sally forth outside of the shadow of the tree to smash face with my 40 attacks. But I don't think I really want to teleport them and isolate them. That is not something I think I would do. But I mean, hey, if you feel that you get more mileage out of it, go nuts. All right, so let's go to the next hero. So Spoilpox. Spoilpox does that for Plague Bearers. Pestigores don't get that ability. Blight Kings don't get that ability. So context-wise, you get a durable chassis in the form of 5-up ward regardless, get lots of wounds, and now you get this really cool ability to out-OC enemy units off objectives. Sorry, excuse me. Absolutely fantastic. All right. Now let's go to Pestigores. Their context is the Shaman Foulhoof. Foulhoof, what a beautiful goat boy. This little guy is just absolutely fantastic. So he has a spell and an ability. Let's talk about, first off, his ability, which happens in the combat step. And basically on a 3+, yet again, he can add 1 to the attack's characteristic of a Pestigore unit. It's very easy to do this. He has to be wholly within 12. The unit has to be wholly within 12. If you take a unit of 20 Pestigores, take Foulhoof. That is literally how the 2 modules combine. Don't take one without the other. On a 3+, to be able to give out an extra attack, absolutely fantastic. It's a 50% increase in attacks. They now, 10 guys have 31 attacks. Absolutely phenomenal. 20 guys have 61 attacks. That's, again, absolutely phenomenal on a 3+. So you can't necessarily rely on it, but it's a wonderful bonus to have. And then he's also a wizard, and that's what makes him really, really good. Again, we can leverage the wizard thing fairly well. Rodigus will be able to hand out a bonus to him more than Belga, because you kind of want your Pestigores to kind of be free roaming. There'll definitely be a moment in the game where you'll position them within 12 inches of a tree and then see an opportunity and they can just whip out. Because they move 6 inches, absolutely fantastic. Now, they can't get the bonus for the Sloppity Bilepiper because they're not a demon unit, but they, in essence, get an extra 2 inches to their move over the rest of the army, and that is great. Absolutely great. Anyway, in any case, you'll sally forth. His spell is fan-freaking-tastic. It's cast on a 7. It has a range of 18 inches, very, very good range. And basically, you pick an enemy unit within 18, and you subtract 1 from their rend of their weapons. What a fantastic spell! Like, it's not pick a Pestigore unit and increase or decrease rend targeting them. No, it's pick an enemy unit and decrease their rend. Phenomenal. This supports the whole entire army, and one of the big reasons why I love Pestigores so much is because of this hero. And combining 20 Pestigores in him with this unit, absolutely glorious. Reducing rend's a huge deal. It's a huge deal because you could still all-out defense in essence, you got a 2-point swing on your armor save. Phenomenal. And that's the context, right? This guy does not help Plague Bears. It does not help Blight Kings. Could you take this unit without Pestigores in your army? You could, but then you feel like you're wasting, right? Because you're not leveraging all his abilities. And why wouldn't you take Pestigores? Absolutely phenomenal unit anyway. And then this guy's just wonderful icing on the cake. So, the context of Pestigores and why I love him, this hero is one of the reasons why I love Pestigores. Okay, let's go over now into the hero for the Blight Kings. The hero for the Blight Kings, we got the Lord o' Blights. Now, Lord of Blights is a confusing war scroll because initially you're like going, what the heck is this guy doing interacting in any shape, way, or form with demon flies, drones? What am I talking about? I'm talking about this, thrice ripened death's heads. Pick an enemy unit that charged this turn and is in combat with this unit, so the actual Lord of Blights, or a friendly Plague Drones unit wholly within 12. That unit suffers bad D3 mortal wounds. That's bizarre. But I dig it. I like the fact that he actually looks at something that's not mortals. I also really like Plague Drones. So what you're saying is if I take the thing I like, Plague Drones, that I find very useful, if you charge my Plague Drones, I could potentially do bad D3 mortal wounds to you? Okay, I'll take that. But that's not the big deal. The big deal is Festering Bulwark. So Festering Bulwark is pick this unit and a friendly unit of Putrid Blight Kings within 3 inches of this unit. Now this happens in the combat phase. So come combat phase, you pick this guy, Lord of Blights, and a unit of Blight Kings within 3. Now, it does not say that this guy needs to be in combat. It says pick himself and a unit of Kings that are within 3. On a 3+, yes, there it is again. On a 3+, so you can't necessarily count on it, but ignore negative modifiers to save rolls for targets, for the targets this turn. This happens every combat phase. Okay, so what the heck does that mean? Are you saying, Lionel, that Blight Kings could have an ethereal save? No, that's not what I'm saying at all. They don't have an ethereal save. That's better than an ethereal save. They can't be negatively modified, which means your opponent's rend counts for nothing, and you can still all-out defense. So Blight Kings could be on a 4-up unmodifiable save and charging within the shadow of a tree a 5-up ward with 40 attacks. How is that bad? This is fantastic. The thing about Blight Kings is that they were called Blight Kings, and that meant everyone compared them to what they were before. But I stress this, I can't stress this enough, at 130 points, I think Blight Kings are fantastic. Not at 140 though. Enter the issue. It is completely points based. I care about Blight Kings for their raw stats. Their abilities are inconsequential and so corner case that they don't matter. But as a silver bullet unit, sure. I just got messaged by a friend today saying that they just fact Blight Kings. As of this recording, they just fact Blight Kings to say that they, you know what? I'll just read it. Give me a moment here. Let me go over to that conversation. Where are you? Boom. All right, so here it is. Putrid Blight Kings, new. Add the following to the effect of discomforting stench. Now, this is Blight Kings. That's their 12-inch aura effect. In addition, your opponent cannot give that priest any ritual points for the rest of the phase. So these guys interact in a very, very significant way with priests and by say these guys, I mean Blight Kings, like no other unit in the entirety of the game does. Now again, I can't stress this, this is only a 12-inch range. But it's something. It means that if you execute a charge, you could dive into the enemy's lines, and behind those lines, not that far away, certainly within 12 inches, those priests will be there. That's cool, right? So on 1s and 2s, they do not get any additional points. So 1s you wouldn't, that would detract. 2, you don't get any. So cool. All right. I think Blight Kings are very, very solid. They are definitely making my list. I like them in combination with Pestigors. And more specifically, I love them in combination with Foulhoof. Foulhoof will pop off that spell, reducing a nasty unit's rend of their weapons by 1. If they dive into my Pestigors, I have 40 wounds, potentially on a 5-up, but just 40 wounds is on a 4-up save if they all-out defense is already very, very solid. Or they'll dive into my Blight Kings, where possibility I could have a 5-up unrendable save with an all-out defense 4-up unrendable save, and you reduce your rend in case I don't get that 3-up off. I think is also very, very cool. Again, the magic number, I think comparing all 3 of these units is the fair way to approach it. Each one at 130 points is great for different reasons. I think they're all viable. What do you all think? Did I change your opinion of Blight Kings? Do you think you'll actually take some? Honestly, I like them. Going to the chat, agreed. I take Blight King for the cheap output. Yeah, a unit of 10 of them is 40. 40 attacks. I don't know what else to say. That's absolutely fantastic. For 260 points. 40 attacks, 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage. For 260 points. That is not bad. That is not bad. So hopefully I change your opinion of the Kings, and you'll think of them in better graces. Oh, wait, got one more on the chat. Interesting ideas on the Blight Kings. I hope so. Hopefully you'll be able to explore more, test it. I mean, it doesn't cost anything to test. Cut out circles, 40 millimeter circles, and test it out with your buddy and see what you think. It's nothing. Use old Blight Kings. If you have any kind of collection of Maggotkin, you definitely have Blight Kings in your collection. They're everywhere. And the old models look really, really cool. So do the new models for that matter. But anyway, food for thought. Dig all 3 of those units. I have lists that use all 3 of them, honestly. I even have a list that uses 20 Blight Kings. Consider me crazy, but I think 20 Blight Kings is also not terrible. All right, let's go over to All right, let's go to the next unit. All right, let's go to Rot Swords. Rot Swords. All right, so this is controversial. I don't like them. I know what you're saying. You're saying that, what the heck are you talking about? Everyone likes Rot Swords. I don't like them. All right, so now why I don't like them? Because you can't just say I don't like them. You got to give a reason. All right, well, let's start off with their points cost. They're 200 points. 200 points for 20 wounds. 3-up save, and a 6-up ward. Now, you could engineer them with a 5-up ward. Let's assume you do that. At 200 points. I don't want them at 200 points. Their stat line, they're 2 attacks, 3s and 3s, 1 rend, 1 damage. They have crit 2 hits. So 10 of them 10 of them have 21 attacks, 3s and 3s. So 66% of the time. So what is that? That's 12 hits, of which you'll explode 3 times. So 15 hits. 66% of that will wound. So what is that? 6, and then call that 10 wounds, roughly. That's spitball math, not accurate, but accurate enough for my exercise. 10 wounds. So they do the most damage out of the infantry units, but for 70 points more. So I'm going to ask you guys, for 70 points, do you believe the 70 points more for what? 2 more wounds than on average over Blight Kings is worth 70 points? No, Lionel, you're missing the point. They're 3-up saves. Like, yeah, the 3-up saves. Okay. Is 2 additional wounds and a 3-up save worth it? He goes, well, 3-up save is pretty good. Is it? Is it pretty good? What if I told you for 60 more points? Well, now I'm going to turn it on you, right? So 60 extra points. So for 260, instead of getting 20 wounds, you get 30 wounds. And now you have 40 attacks. And now you could have a 5-up potential unrendable save. And you can charge and not lose any abilities. Rot Swords, 200 points. You know what their ability is? If they get charged on a 3+, your opponent can't use a command. Okay. For 200 points? What if I told you there was a unit in the game currently right now that has the same amount of wounds, same armor save, moves an inch faster. Instead of crit hits, it has crit auto wound. Has the same amount of attacks. Wounds at the same rate, same rend, except when it contests an objective, it increases its attacks by 50%. And at the start of the player's turn, it can give them another attack. So literally, 100% more attacks than this unit. Very easy to engineer for 190 points. You know what those are called? Chaos Warriors. You know what army doesn't use Chaos Warriors? Slaves of Dark. Because it's not good enough in their book. Because they have Chosen and Vanguard and yada, 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 yada. Now I understand the context is different. That unit in other armies would be absolutely glorious. Hey, I could think of one army there would be really glorious in. This one, Maggotkin. And I'm telling you, Rot Swords at 200 points with basically a meh ability that only works if they get charged and then still fails 33% of the time. Are you kidding me? For 200 points? They move 4 inches. Why? I'm at a loss. I have absolutely no idea why people think this unit is good. I don't know how else to say that. I love the models. The models are sexy as all get up. And what doubles down on this? In case you want to spend even more points on this unit. So most units are taking 20. That's 400 points. 400 points. But you're not done yet. No. I want a Lord of Plagues on top of that. That also only gives abilities if the unit gets charged. I don't get this. So, okay, let's play a game right now. I have a unit of Rot Swords. I'm going to tell you they're within the shadow of a tree because, hey, it's very easy to put things in the shadow of a tree. Okay, fine. They're in the shadow of a tree. And I'm waiting there, and I'm like going, all right, come charge me. My opponent goes, wait a second. So if I charge you, you have a chance of denying my commands. Your hero has a chance of giving extra attacks and a chance to give them +1 to wound. That's if I charge you. I go, yes. So you're not going to want to charge me, right? It's like, no, I'm just going to score all around you. That's what I'm going to do. And even if there's an objective in the center of the board, I'll just score the other objectives. Because why? How far do you move? 4? Okay, cool. So here's 4, and then I'll move 6 or 7 further than that, and now you need to execute a 10 or 11 inch charge to come at me, bro. And if you do, you lose all your abilities. All of them. The only thing you're keeping is crit 2 hits. Okay. And now that you're outside, if you make that charge, you're well outside of your tree, and now shields are down, and then I get to dogpile you and knock you off this table because you're ridiculously overcosted at 400 points? Am I wrong? And like, so many people have said that this unit is good. I don't know why. Tell me, beautiful people. I'm going to tell you right now, you are never going to use these models. Not because they're not beautiful, because Plague Bearers, Pestigores, heck, Blight Kings exist. All way better options. At those points levels, you could almost get 2 units of those things and get 80 wounds of stuff. I don't know what else to tell you. I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I offended anyone by saying rot swords are not something that I like. I'm going to tell you right now, there's not a single army list that rot swords are in. Not a single list. I can't tell you this enough. I'm sorry, but yeah, I'll go to the chat. Maybe the chat can save me here. Can I return my 2 boxes of rot swords to your store? No. Oh, my man. You know what the funny thing is about rot swords? I'm going to tell you right now, I'm going to buy them. I'm going to put them in my collection as well because I'm a giant nerd like all of you. And the big difference here is these gorgeous models are going to be gorgeous for decades. And this is only good for 3 years. And things will change. And there might be a Scourge of Gyran type of thing that buffs them up. Or there might be a War Scroll adjustment that buffs them. Give me a break. You know, Games Workshop's in the business to sell models. I'm going to tell you that for nothing. And if these don't sell tremendously well, guess what they're going to do? Make the rules better. Drop their points. I don't know where their points, what points they would need to be at for me to be really, really interested. Obviously, there is definitely a threshold. If they're at 150 points, heck yeah, I'm in. They're not going to be 150 points, nor should they. What I want is just better rules. This design is terrible. I hate. I have to not charge you to unlock my rule, and then it still only happens on a 3+ is a terrible design. Is a terrible design. I don't know how else to say. All right, those are my rot swords. I'm sure I'm going to get all sorts of thumbs down on this. Fight me. Tell me I'm wrong. Pick an army that's in the tournament circuit that done well that has rot swords in it. I guess maybe that'll be where it's like, aha, Lionel, see, this guy did really well. He took rot swords. He did. All right, so Gaio, if we could go to Plague Drones. Let's talk about something I do like, and that is the Demon Flies. Now, Demon Flies in this book have been priced. Okay, first off, nothing changed about them. Rules-wise, they're pretty much the exact same. You could say that their stock went up in the sense that they are demons and they have a 5+ board. Okay, cool. Their big deal is they're 150 points. 150 points for 15 wounds that move 8 inches, have a 5+ save with a 5+ ward is actually really, really good. I love them. I'll say that. And one of the reasons why I love them is the fact that my Great Unclean One can now bring back a destroyed unit for 1 CP. It makes these 150 point unit really quite good. It's something viable to take. I like them for attuned. So often, almost every single game I play, they're often -1 to wound because I cast Fleshy Abundance on them. They then move to the center, score attuned. If someone charges me, I score the second version of attune, which is retreat with 2 units and charge with 2 units. What's wonderful about these flies is that they're able to fall back and then charge. At 8 inches, I typically fall back forward and then start tying up units to basically spread disease on. And then when they eventually die, for 1 CP, I bring 2 of them back. I love plague drones. And I've built lists. I don't have the models, but I am working toward it, where I take 4 units of them. I think plague drones at that level, you can now explore taking the battle tactic of scout. And armies that are geared toward playing scout are very powerful. They score very consistently without having to interact. Now, why are these exceptional at that? Because if they get tied up, they can then leave, maybe hit another target that they have an easier time picking up, or just score, right? Score scout and take cap objectives. These guys have an OC of 2 apiece. They're an absolutely excellent unit. I freaking love flies. I love them for battle tactics. I love them for screening. That's primarily why I used them. My colleagues at my last term were questioning why I was taking them, and that was the reason why. Drones are absolutely fantastic in my opinion. Highly recommend them. If you have in your collection, use them. They were everywhere at one point. You couldn't help but pick up drones at a certain point. All right, so let's go to the next slide. We got Slaven Knights. Slaven Knights are your tech unit, and again, an absolutely phenomenal unit in specific builds. There's a customer here in the shop that used to play Sons of Behemoth, great guy, and he wanted to do a Sons of Behemoth style list for Maggotkin. So he took a Glockin, he took a Rodriguez, he took a Great Unclean One, and he took Festus, I think, in that list. He just loved big models. And what I would have done in that list is maybe drop Festus and convert Festus into at least 1 unit of Slaven Knights. Now, why do I say that? I think Slaven Knights basically gel extremely well or complement big guys. Guys that slap hard. Why? Because of their ability. It's once per turn per army. So multiple units of Slaven Knights, only 1 of them get to do this. Weird, but whatever. It's called Pall of Exhaustion, and as pick an enemy unit in combat with this unit. So this is done in any combat phase. So both players' combat phases. Add 1 to the roll if the target is in combat with a friendly Rotbringers unit. All right. So the roll is 3+. So adding 1 to it is 2+. Strike last. Strike last is so much better than strike first, in the sense you could pick a unit, make it strike last, and then gangbang it. Literally dogpile that unit with 3 giant big guys and just pound that thing into paste, or nerf it into the ground so much that there'll be nothing coming back. I like Slaven Knights. Slaven Knights are specifically really good with things that hit hard, and there it is. I don't know if I would take them. Would I take them with a regular like mass infantry? Maybe. At 180 points, they're not nothing. They're not so inexpensive that they're an auto, but they are not a unit that I would consider like taking a fully reinforced unit. They're literally just a tech piece, and they're good tech. They have a good amount of wounds. For 180 points, you get 12 wounds on a 3-up save. A good mobility, at least for the army, an 8-inch move. So yes, they have a 6-up ward. That can be a 5-up ward conditionally, but I wouldn't care so much about that. Their primary purpose is to make sure that I can angle for that strike last. That's what's important. Angling for that strike last is what's important. All right, so Slaven Knights are big thumbs up as a tech piece in certain builds. And then we'll get to the last war scroll that I'm going to discuss. And I'm going to discuss my poor Beast of Nurgle. Now, we're going to pour one out for these guys. I'm a little bit upset about it. Why am I upset about it? Okay, so when this book came out, there were 2 lists that spammed 2 lists. That make it sound like Beasts of Nurgle were like a real list. It was me and 4 other guys in the world that ran an all beast list. Who else was doing that? Nobody. The other list that they nerfed in the ground, or made sure they nerfed into the ground, was the old Lord of Afflictions list. So come this book, they made the abilities of both of those War Scrolls be army. Meaning, the Lord of Afflictions ability to do mortal wounds or bad D3 mortal wounds would only trigger once. That pretty much wiped out that list, and that's fine. I guess in their mind they're saying they didn't envision Lords of Afflictions being used that way, and they didn't like the idea of all these heroes. I guess that's a way to look at it. The pushback I would give is, why would that be crazy? They were a competitive list, but not so gross that they were just winning tournaments here and there. And why would that be worse than 7 Terrorgeists or 7 Dragons? Like, I don't understand where they draw lines, but fine. Lord of Afflictions, you didn't envision it that way? Okay, fine. Lord of Afflictions is an alright model, decent. Take it if you want. It wasn't highlighted in this stream, but whatever. My poor Beast of Nurgle, though, they turned its ability to do impacts or attention seekers as a once per army ability. Why? Like, what the heck? That list that I ran with all beasts is not good. It was a fun thing. Did it have some matchups where it overperformed? Okay, sure. But it was not competitive in the serious sense. It certainly wasn't dominating anything, really. And now it means that if you take multiple beasts, you're not really exercising, so you're never going to take more than really one of them to go with, I guess, Articulus so that he can recur it? I don't know. This was completely, absolutely unnecessary. There's a sign that potentially, yes, that maybe now with the interaction of the way disease are, that these guys are a bit better, I suppose. There's an army of renown in this book, I will not be discussing, that can maybe do more with beasts, because Horticulus could be the leader of that army of renown. Okay. Like, this is not... it's just tragic. I miss my puppy boys. I miss my goodest boys, my whole army of them. It was a cool army, and they took away my toys. And there you go. I'll end this stream with my sorrow and my tears. But those tears are going to dry up real soon, because overall, I am a fan of this book. I think this book is pretty strong. But it's strong because of one reason, and that's mostly because of points. I think if the studio approaches this book the same way they approached every other, I don't know if this book survives. That's basically it. Like, the conversation I just had with you regarding Blight Kings disappears entirely if they increase 10 points. If Rodicus goes up, and you could argue, of course, that Rodicus should, so should Belga. They're undercosted. Pestigors are too undercosted. Okay, cool. Do all those things, and I don't know where the army ends up. I don't think there's enough depth and enough interesting things in this book to necessarily survive big points increases. That's just an opinion, and things, of course, will prove over time. I am hoping I am completely wrong about that. But as the book stands right now, I'm super enjoying playing it. I have a whole bunch of builds. Like I said, I have one with 40 pox wretches. I got ones with 4 units of flies. I got ones with 2 units of Blight Kings. I got ones with 40 Pestigors. Loving Rodicus. Rodicus is in all of them. I sometimes use a Great Unclean One. I'll occasionally use some Maggoth Lords. These are all wonderful models and really fun builds. It scratches my itch for my Johnny itch in combination figuring out. I like the whole interaction between my Great Unclean One and, for instance, Twillet Sorceries. I do. Right now, here's another one you could do. Actually, with the Lord of Afflictions. Currently, right now, for the next 5 months, Living Plague is still in play. You could put Living Plague on the Lord of Afflictions, which is your fastest, cheapest model. Charge in once per game, drop a disease, and if you have Rodriguez's spell off, you can go Rodriguez's spell, everyone take a mortal wound, none of you can heal, charge in with the Lord of Afflictions, drop a disease, and then spread. This is on top of any other disease you had planned for that round as well. So, pretty freaking amazing. Pretty freaking amazing. So you could go Rodriguez, cast a spell off a Great Unclean One to drop a disease, charge with a Lord of Afflictions, drop another disease, maybe charge in with some pox wretches because this is the alternate timeline universe where everything's in range somehow and nothing's dead. Anyway, you can have a lot of fun. You can have a lot of fun weaving really cool combinations with this book. And I've been enjoying it. I do like this book. So with that, folks, let's just go to the chat. Does anyone have any questions I haven't seen yet? Ace of Shadows, 10 Blight Kings, and LOB is also 400 points. 10 Blight Kings and LOB is 400 points. But what I love about it, so 20 Rot Swords is 400. 10 Rot Swords and a hero is 400. Blight Kings. I would much rather have Blight Kings at 40 attacks with a hero than 20 Rot Swords? No? Maybe not your jam. Maybe you're saying you love Rot Swords. And you know what? I'm here for that. I would love to be wrong because those models are absolutely incredible. I freaking love those models. Where are your friends? I don't have any, so that was an easy question to answer. All right. All right, folks. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hopefully you got something out of this. All in all, very positive. Looking forward to maybe cracking new combinations. And with all that out of the way, folks, I'm going to bid you all a fond adieu, and we'll catch you all next week.